So, if you're setting up the RDL in a squat rack, set up your J hooks at around mid thigh. It's going to be really easy to get the bar in and out. And don't be surprised if you mess this up. I do this for a living and I still had to redo it. Then go grab your weights, put your weights on, face into the rack, step backwards, and you're ready to go. Feet are roughly hip width, hands are going to be just outside the hips, and you're going to think about pushing your hips back, going down with a soft knee bend, keeping the bar relatively close to your body, but not obsessing over it. And so you're pushing the hips back, aiming for a deep stretch in the glutes and hamstrings, going as low as you can with a neutral spine, and that might take a little bit of guess and check. And once you've gone as low as you can with a neutral spine, I want you to think about standing up by pushing the ground down. Think about pushing the earth down away from you. And as you stand up, yeah, a little bit of glute squeeze is fine. Just don't overly hump the bar when you get to the top. That doesn't really help. Some of you will be able to go deeper than others. It comes down to things like mobility and limb length. So don't judge your range of motion off somebody else's. Some of you may touch the floor. Some of you may just get past the knee. It's all good. And when you're done, just walk it in and you're good to go. Let's do a quick RDL FAQ. Does it matter what implement you use? No. You can use dumbbells, you could use a barbell, you could use a hex bar, you could use a Smith machine or another machine. It's all good. Use the implement that you feel most comfortable with and execute it like this. What makes the RDL different from a deadlift? Simply put, the deadlift has a little bit more knee bend and a little bit more quad involvement, and the RDL has a little bit less knee bend and a little bit less quad involvement, and is more specific to growing the glutes and hams. A traditional deadlift would look more like this, where there's quite a bit of knee bend, and the bar always goes all the way back to the floor. And an RDL would have less knee bend, and thus less quads, and doesn't always go all the way back to the floor, but that largely depends on your mobility, and we'll cover that in a second. What are my favorite cues when it comes to the RDL? I have two, and they both have to do with learning how to initiate the hinge by moving the hips back. The first one is to imagine you're carrying in groceries from your car, but you still need to close the door behind you. And so you push the hips back and close that car door with your butt. The point is to help reinforce that the RDL involves initiating the lift by pushing the hips back, not bending the knees and going down. And so you think about closing that car door with your butt. It can help you learn to initiate the lift by pushing the hips back. The second is to imagine there's somebody behind you holding a string, and that string is attached right to your tailbone. When we think about initiating the lift, I want you to imagine somebody pulling on that string. So you're imagining somebody pulling on that string behind you and actually pulling your hips back into the lift like this. Again, to reinforce that this movement involves chopping at the hips and pushing the hips backwards while you have a soft knee bend. Which brings us to the next question, how much knee bend? If you want a little bit less hamstrings and a little bit more glutes, you want to use a little bit more knee bend. If you want a little bit less glutes and a little bit more hamstrings, you want to use less knee bend. But before I demonstrate either of those, the truth is I'd rather you focus on a technique and a level of knee bend that feels intuitive to you, where you feel strong and you can recreate it with as little bit of headache as possible week to week. So yes, if you want a little bit more glutes, bend the knees a little bit more. And if you want more hamstrings, bend them a little bit less. But if all that feels a little bit fussy, and I would understand if it does, just focus on using a soft knee bend and doing what feels really intuitive for you. And next up, how low should you go? This is an important one. You should go as low as you can with a neutral spine. Some people will say, stop the rep when your butt stops going backwards. And while I don't think that's a terrible cue, sometimes it's really hard to understand when your butt actually stops traveling backwards, and it's easier to feel when you start to lose that neutral spine. And so I'll demonstrate some good reps here with a neutral spine. My back is nice and flat, you can see it right here. And if I go any deeper than this, I'll start to round at the back. And so what I would want to do is feel that out right about here. If I go any lower, I'd start to round my back, and so I know that that's a good stopping place for me. Some people are going to be able to go lower than others based on their mobility and how long their arms are and a whole bunch of other stuff. So don't judge your technique or your range of motion based on somebody else's. Some of you guys are going to be able to tap your plates on the floor. Some of you guys are going to be able to stand on a plate and tap your plates on the floor from a deficit. And some of you guys are going to stop in the middle of your shin or right after you pass your knee, and that's totally fine. You should be going as low as you can with a neutral spine. A very common question lately is, what should you do with your head? Where should you look? What should you do with your neck? It really doesn't matter. Some people would say, you absolutely have to tuck your chin and do it like this. And other people would say, well, you want to keep your spine nice and neutral like this. And other people would say, hey, if you look up, it's going to help you actually tilt your pelvis and stretch your hamstrings out more. And the truth is, it's all fine. I want you to do what feels intuitive for you. I personally like picking a spot on the ground about 1 to 2 feet out in front of me and keeping my gaze on that point throughout the rep. That keeps my head in a relatively neutral-ish position that feels good for me. But there are some people that are going to do really well looking up as they go down, and other people for whom that's not going to feel good, and they should try tucking their chin. Give it a shot, see what feels intuitive for you, and pick the one that feels good. Should you use lifting straps or Versa grips? If you feel like your grip is a limiting factor, use a pair of lifting straps or Versa grips. It's a no-brainer. And last but not least, one of my favorite tips, if you're struggling with getting a consistent range of motion, you feel like one rep you get down here, and the next rep it's a little bit short, and then the next one it's deeper, and the reps are kind of all over the place. One of the things you can do is bring over a pair of bumper plates or little steppers, and then when you're doing the set, you can actually aim for those as if they were the floor, because now the floor is essentially elevated, and it's a way for you to get a consistent range of motion every single rep because you know you have to tap those plates at the bottom before you come back up.